Something's fishy. I think this jar is my hint. Yes! Yes! Miss Skye, I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years ago to protect your sister.
You mean the forgery at the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered?
If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been useless. Even so, I am compelled to bring everyone's attention to a significant contradiction within your testimony. A contradiction in my testimony? Your testimony, and I quote, or you testified, and I quote, the pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. That's right. Do you have a problem with that? It's a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on the jar with the victim's blood. Yes, the prosecutor must have written it in his final moments. Exactly. So, and this is where the contradiction lies. In order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not have yet been broken before he died. He couldn't have written Emma's name on a shattered jar.
Order! Order!
Your Honor, it would appear more information is needed in regards to the jar and the bloody message. We may be missing something critical here. Something critical? Chief Prosecutor, it seems you're as in the dark as we are about the truth towards where we're headed. What? Just tell us exactly what you saw. We'll piece together the information needed to arrive at the truth.
Very well. The witness may now continue her testimony.
Part 2. Jar and message in blood. Okay, here we go. I immediately noticed blood traces on the jar, but it was dark in the room and I didn't have time to check it out. To be safe, I wiped away the blood. The fragments were large, so I'm sure I got them all. All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered. Well, that's just not it, because they are all not clean.
You mean you were the one who wiped away this message in blood?
I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was the real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence.
Very well. The defense may now begin its cross-examination.
I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar. So this jar was already broken? It's a miracle that the thing hadn't broken earlier.
It certainly looks feeble, as the defense's case.
But not as feeble as the judge's judgment. Jeez. You were an ace detective who never missed a detail. Do you really expect us to believe you didn't investigate what was written on the jar pieces? Normally, I would have. But it was dark in the room, and I didn't have time to check it out. So you didn't know your sister's name was written on the jar? No. If I had known, I would have gathered all the pieces on the ground. I would have gathered all the pieces and ground them to dust. Well, that helps my case. Lana, you do that for me? Seems you two might make up yet. Anyway, I just barely had enough time to move the body as it was. If someone happened upon the scene, you'd lose your chance to erase the evidence. You must have been in a hurry. I was. I knew I had to destroy the evidence before anyone came.
This is rather shocking.
To be safe, I wiped away the blood. Doubt it. I'm afraid this action of yours reveals what really happened.
What do you mean?
If you really thought Dark killed Prosecutor Marshall, you wouldn't have wiped away the blood. What else? What else could I have done in that situation? Lana, I only had a few moments. There wasn't enough time for me to do anything else but gather up the pieces. The fragments were large, so I'm sure I got all of them. But you didn't! But how could you have seen with the power out? It should have been pitch black in that office. The detective is always prepared, Mr. Wright. Even now, I always carry a pocket light and camera with me. Even I carry my bottle of emergency lumen oil wherever I go. I never miss anything. I got every last piece. Alright, no, she didn't get every last piece. There's one more piece that's never been reassembled, and one was stuck in Gant's safe. So we have both of those to be presenting right now. Yes! Miss Skye, I believe this jar conceals a truth even you are unaware of. What? We found the final piece of the jar in Chief Gant's safe. In Chief Gant's safe? But how? I knew it. She really didn't know. There's something even more disturbing about that final piece. There was still blood on it.
But the witness just testified. She testified that she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off of them.
Yes, which leaves us with only one explanation. On the night Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up to the scene. Chief Gant got there before you.
But couldn't the defendant have simply missed a piece?
I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an ace detective.
That may well be, but everyone makes mistakes. Even I once wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth, can you believe?
Have you forgotten, Your Honor? When this witness arrived at the scene, the jar was already broken.
Oh, that?
There's no way a name could have been written on a shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness.
I hope you're not implying the person was Chief Gant. At the time, he was looking for Dart downstairs. Besides,
the question is, if he did arrive first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years? Well, Your Honor, can you answer us that?
Nani? No!
Wait, I'm not the one on trial here. Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He proceeded to break the jar, and he purposefully hid one of the broken pieces. Question, what is that action called? Fabrication.
But why would Chief Gant do that?
It's a blackmail! Blackmail! Come on, Judge, it's blackmail! In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear?
What happened afterwards?
Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister, Emma, killed the victim. Determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped her create evidence that incriminated Dark, sparing Emma, and here is the reason. The reason why Miss Skye became Chief's puppet. No, I did it on my own. Please, sis, stop trying to protect the Chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. Don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. Defense attorneys make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies? Imagine that coming from my own client.
I guess you do seem the type who likes to twist the truth.
Wait a minute. What if we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap?
Is something wrong, Mr. Wright?
Lana, may be right after all. What do you mean, right? So you do tell foul lies then, Mr. Wright? Miss Skye, please testify once more. But if evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I do remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Skye, if you will. I can't. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there is a possibility that it will if you tell the truth. I'll testify about what I really saw. When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on the suit of armor's sword. Emma and Dark were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what happened, I thought she did it. And that's when I erased all of the evidence that linked her to the murder. I had Chief Gant help me remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if all reality was a fabrication, Emma might be... But if it all really was a fabrication, Emma might be innocent. Man. Oh, man. Unbelievable. The body was impaled by the armor's sword? You were the only one who saw that. If only you had proof. Actually, I do have proof. I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning. Nani? To me? It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed, but I don't remember receiving a picture like that. Lana must have known. See, Mr. Wright, she really does have faith in you. Very well, Mr. Wright. Please present this picture. What the shit? I seem to remember getting... Yeah, I got the law. I got the law book. Every other time I've tried to check this book... Aw, look at that. He's got a little... Aw. It's hidden in this book, isn't it? No way. Hey, there's a picture in here. Look, some of his shirt is ripped off too. Oh my, that's the fabric in the safe. This is the actual crime scene. No other detective saw the crime scene like this. That's because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I rearranged the scene. Oh my God, we have hard evidence that, yes. Mr. Wright, that piece cut out from his vest, could that be the cloth we found inside Chief Gant's safe? What is this? It's a handprint. That cloth, it had fingerprints on it. Whoever's fingerprints those are must be the real murderer. What? But those fingerprints, they're yours, Emma. Are your lips turning all purple, Mr. Wright? Anyway, let's go on with this cross-examination. So long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flush out the real murderer.
Very well. The defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Yo, I don't like where this is going. I don't like where this is going. When I arrived at... Hold on, what? What? Come now, Yuji. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen.
Chief Gant.
What? Now you want to make me out to look like the bad guy too? If so, I'd like to put a word or two in for my defense. I'm afraid it's too late for that. What? You've already declined testimony. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort. This must be the risk that the judge was talking about. Just sit back and relax and enjoy the sound of a noose tightening around your own neck. Yes! So what? You think I'm worried? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements. What do you mean? The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence.
Yes, that is true. Wait, you mean you still have some conclusive evidence?
No, I don't. But someone does.
Someone?
So then, what's your excuse, Righto? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death. Fuck, dude. Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt.
Is this true, Mr. Wright?
If I show that piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer.
Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence, present it now. And if you try to conceal anything, you will be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries.
What do I do now? I'd better think this through. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. Should I present that piece of evidence? The one that shows who really killed Prosecutor Marshall? No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Yes, that's my go-to here. That's my go-to here. And unregistered evidence must be present. Every unregistered evidence present. Okay, well that rule 1 is my go-to. I'm gonna say I'm not showing the evidence. Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. What? You lie.
Chief Gant?
You opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. The conclusive evidence. I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Gant. You had some sort of conclusive evidence in your safe that you've been holding on to? What? Tell us all about it. And how you've been hiding it from everybody. Mr. Wright, Why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out, Miles? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area? It looks like part of it's been cut off for some reason. You mean you had this in your safe?
What? That means you, the chief of police, concealing evidence? This is gonna be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department.
That's right! Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Righto. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened.
What? You mean you'll admit to it?
I thought he forfeited his right to speak. I was the first person to arrive at the scene of the crime that day. It then occurred to me that I could use this situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her. I knew Lana. If I made it look like blame lay with her sister, then when she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Skye. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife in the tip of the victim's body and move the body across the room. And I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted. When we rearranged the scene, I hid 2 pieces of evidence. I did this before Lana arrived to the scene. 2 pieces of evidence? You mean those items in your safe?
But why?
For insurance, of course. Insurance? I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder the girl committed.
You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence?
Who do you take me for, a fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? I hid the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe it. To go and wipe the blood off all the pieces. But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on the jar, too? Oh. Ho-ho! Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? And that's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come now, Righto, cough it up already. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth that you cut off in the victim's, cut off the victim in your safe. Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do all that, being chief and all, but it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer.
Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present.
Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it before it was too late. It's been a long battle. But the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. I have to now. Your Honor, I do have the evidence to present now.
All right, then let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall.
I have to, guys. I have to. Truth first! Truth first, guys! Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh, yes, yes. At last you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution rests that be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint is on leather. There must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly.
You mean?
It could not have been forged. It must have been authentic, conducive evidence. Ho ho ho. You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy. What? Think about it. Righto had this all the time to present as evidence. Yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that? Mr. Wright, do you really know?
Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they?
Yeah. We're safe, guys. We can do this. Listen, it's still self-defense. It's still self-defense. She won't be charged for it.
Emma Skye?
What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Whoa, ho, ho, ho! You're really something, righto. You knew this girl all along, and yet you still tried to pin the murder on me.
So it's true. Tragic, but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall into his death.
How could you? You monster! Miss Skye, you knew whose fingerprints those were all along, and yet you still acted like she really didn't. Miss Skye, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. But I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposefully concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy! What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you gonna tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer? Before I do that, there's just one little thing that I want to clear up. Oh? And what is that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask?
It was Emma Skye, wasn't it?
Not so fast, Your Honor. I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction.
What? A contradiction? What is that fool babbling about?
I'm talking about a contradiction. One that proves who the real killer is. Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict? Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. What the could it be? It's not this cell phone. It's not the parking lot floor plans. It's not the crime photo. It's not gonna be the shoe. Someone left behind an oil stain on the fabric. They must have had a really oily hand. Mr. Wright, think about it scientifically. A more likely explanation is the person slipped and fell on a freshly waxed floor. Getting wax all over their hand, well, that would account for this amount of oil, I guess. I don't see what's so scientific. So, waxy hand. Wouldn't there be blood on that part of the cloth? There would be blood on that part of the cloth. Fixed it. There would be blood on this part of the cloth. And what exactly is supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it, and she never gave this to him. See where the piece of his vest was cut out? Yes.
His shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though.
Exactly my point. His chest is soaked in blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood pours out of his mouth.
Oh, but that piece of cloth... Why? Wait, there's no blood on it.
Ugh! Since Emma Skye's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword.
No!
This is nonsense! Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me who it could have been. Who could have arrived before Miss Skye, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the sword? Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. Then he broke the jar on purpose to leave it behind as a clue. And then to make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago? That you personally cut out this bloodless piece from the victim's vest? Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the murderer. No! Finished. Who's objecting? Oh, that was close, Righto. You almost had me. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than that.
What do you mean? You refute his allegations.
You see that piece of cloth? It's illegal evidence.
Nope. Order! What nonsense is this?
Illegal evidence cannot be submitted in court. Remember, Yuji? Earlier, old Righto here concealed a piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Righto? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you? Nice try, bitch! Check this out, guys. Rule number 1 of evidence. Rule number 1 of evidence. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. That's just fine. Rule number 2, however, unregistered evidence may be presented if it's relevant to the case in trial. It only became relevant when we presented it. You cheeky mother... I'm so ready, Your Honor. I don't have any evidence I can present at this time. At this time, Phoenix, you said it perfectly, my boy.
Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence.
At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be a legal evidence. But that's not fair. Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son.
I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth?
True. Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal.
Well, Mr. Wright?
It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived. Mr. Wright, do you admit it? That you purposefully and illegally concealed this piece of cloth? I did not illegally seal this cloth. Certainly, I refused to present evidence at one point. Aha! So the evidence is illegal. That's right, No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. Huh? It's not that I didn't present the evidence then. It's that I couldn't.
Now, what do you mean you couldn't?
There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence. No, Yuji, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't let him. There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not?
Very well. Let us settle this once and for all. Earlier, you refused to present the evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in a violation of the law, then do so now.
This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What is this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Skye's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, it was merely a piece of cloth and nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in the book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying, I did not have approval from the police department. Rule number 2, unregistered evidence must be presented, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case. And here is the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident. What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just look at the picture. Sorry, but can you recall when was the picture presented?
Well, that was shown only a few moments ago.
No, he's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest?
Whoa,
Yes. No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the chief of police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer and the only one who could be is you, Damon Gant, the killer. Oh, Phoenix! Yes! Dude, he's going hysterical. I love when you make them go crazy. I love when you make them go crazy. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years, he's been snooping around the department trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, yet he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Star and then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you've got to help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room, and then all of a sudden he had to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There's too many unanswered questions left. He told me to open up the evidence room and take it out. It's not too late. I'll hand this to Marshall. Well, to be honest, I was a little panicked too. I had a bad feeling about it, but I never knew it would come to this. And that's when I saw it. That accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out. You would only increase the amount of blood you couldn't finish what you started. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I was wiping it up. I was worrying much about the floor that I didn't realize my mistake. Detective Gumshoe. Detective Gumshoe's bloody handprint. I used to be known as the crime computer, but everyone has to start somewhere. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car. I'm sorry, we couldn't think of another way to move the body. We broke the trunk, but what's the big deal? You pull down a lot more than us detectives. What does this have to do with anything? You're horrible! How could you get Miss Skye involved in all this? Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from the Detective Goodman's locker. I feel bad for having to do it, but I couldn't sit around and choose what to take. Well, you left the jar fragment in gloves. Yeah. It looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They did their jobs well, much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, what are you gonna do in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day, you'll understand. If you want to take them on alone, you'll figure out what's needed. So Gant's guilty, dude. He confessed. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbyes. Oh, and Yuji. What? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend.
I'm sorry too, Damon Gant. I knew you used to be good long ago. You were once a fine investigator and an example to others on the force. And I'm sorry to learn that you are no longer that person.
Those days are gone now, Yuji. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Righto here. And Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. You see, if I listen carefully, well, I can hear it right now. The sound of a new beginning. There are two things I want you to understand. Yes? First, your sister never hurt anyone. And second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Skye, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years, from the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today.
So, it seems all the questions raised in the trial have been answered.
I'm sorry, Miss Skye. I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. My. What high standards you have for a rookie. I can see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows, a few years from now, you just might make it to the top. Aww! I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. Miss Skye. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you. It was nothing. Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you, and yet, you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth.
Stop it! I only did my job! In light of the case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Miss Skye.
Yes, Your Honor?
You are innocent of murder. However, although the chief blackmailed you, the fact is still that you have been committing forgery for years. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date.
Yes, I understand, Your Honor.
Is there something amusing about all of this? Why are you smiling?
It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I felt free of these heavy chains.
Well, this trial has gone on far too long already. Regarding the charge of the murder, this court finds the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, not guilty! Confetti!
That is all.
Court is adjourned.
For the final time in this game, guys. At long last, it's finally over! Emma? Why the long face? I'm sorry, your sister didn't get completely off the hook, but at least she wasn't convicted for a murder she didn't commit. No, that's not it. Just now, after the trial ended. I can see why Mia Fey thought so highly of you. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. You've done well. But she didn't say shit to her sister. You know, I did my best too, but Lana didn't say a single word to me. Hey, hope I'm not interrupting anything, pal. Oh, yes I am. I'll come back later. Ah, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Making a detective run around while on duty, and to top it off, you call me here? Man, I've seen happier people at funerals. Hey, lighten up, pals. I'm only kidding. Oh, are you here because of my sister again? Nope, not this time. I came today because of you, pal. Me? That's right. I thought you'd, like to see someone. Lana? Should you be doing this? She's still under arrest, you know. Well, I won't tell if you won't. Emma, I owe you an apology. It's okay, sis. Don't worry about it. That day 2 years ago, that was the first time in my life that I ever panicked. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming. All I could think about was keeping you from getting wrapped up in that mess. Sis. I asked Gant to help me cover up the truth. I thought I was doing it for your sake, but now I realized I was wrong. I changed after that day. I had to. It was the only way I could make it through the past 2 years. I knew how much I was hurting by your distancing myself, but I couldn't bring myself to tell you what I did. I was scared. Scared that you'd look at me with those eyes of yours. I was scared of how you'd react if you knew. But sis, you were only doing it for me. No. Huh? I turned my back on you that day. In hiding what I believed to be the truth, I was deceiving you. Sis, I'm such a fool. It took me all this time to realize it. Emma, I'm so sorry. But sis, you don't have to apologize. I'm happy now. You're happy? Of course. You know, sis, I've always known that one day you'd come back, and now you have. Oh, Emma. Emma. Aw, reunion! Aw, look at, aw, doesn't it just warm your heart? Aw. No one can change the past. Fact, you need time travel for that. The only thing we can do is strive to make up for our mistakes. Why must we make up for our mistakes, you ask? Because in so doing, we can find the way back to our path. And once we've found our path, we can move on from our past mistakes toward a brighter future. At least that's what I felt looking at those two sisters make up. Well, Mr. Wright, Mr. Gumshoe, me? Thank you both for all that you've done. I'm sure we'll meet again someday. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? Edgeworth? Stop hiding and come over here. Where was he hiding? I just came to say congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Right, well, I'll be going now. Mr. Edgeworth, I hope you don't blame yourself for what happened. We were the ones who acted corruptly, not you. It's too late for me. No matter what anyone may say, I realized today that I can't change my own mistakes. Mr. Edgeworth. Not only that, but I don't even trust myself anymore. Chief Gant was right. You despised criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. If you want to take them on alone, well, you're gonna have to figure out what's needed. I do despise criminals. I plan to dedicate my entire life to fighting them. But in order to fight crime alone, one needs a weapon. It's scary, but I've been thinking the same thing for quite some time now. But Edgeworth, who knows? Given enough time, I might have tried to pull something like Chief Gant did. That thought terrifies me. That's why I can't continue on as a prosecutor. Don't you understand? Damon Gant and your mentor, Manfred von Karma, were both the best of the best when it came to fighting crime. But they both made the same mistake. You said in order to fight crime alone, one needs a weapon. That may be right, but think back to today's trial. You weren't alone. You were working together with Mr. Wright, and because of that partnership, you were able to present evidence that otherwise would have gone undiscovered. Isn't that right, Mr. Wright? Huh? What? Oh, yeah. What is this, a pop quiz? Come on, Mr. Wright, show him what Lana's talking about. And neither Edgeworth or I would have been able to find on our own? Not this. Not this, not any of this. It's this, our merged evidence list. We wouldn't have been able to have a merged evidence list if we didn't both have a copy to put together. We did this together. That's the picture I drew. Our counterattack began with this. You had one half of the evidence, and I had the other. Apart, we wouldn't have been able to completely restore Emma's picture. That didn't just happen by chance, Edgeworth. It's time for me to go. Mr. Edgeworth? If you'll excuse me, there are still some loose ends that need wrapping up. Take care, Chief. Edgeworth, what will you do now? Well, whatever you do, just remember, what happened in this trial can either make or break you as a prosecutor. In the end, it's up to you. I know. It seems I owe you my thanks too, right? But what I face now is my problem. Edgeworth, I'll be waiting for you in court. Farewell. I'd better be getting back too. Okay, I'll come visit you. It seems we both still have a lot to learn. Here, this is a little something for you. Scientific investigation? It's the first book I ever bought. Study it well. Thanks, sis, I will. And so, another case came to a close. As for the sisters, I have faith. Look at that. Look at that hug. How could you not? Faith that their lives have only just begun. She's 16. She's 16. As for me, I think it's about time I started on a new journey of my own. A journey to rediscover myself. What? Well, don't go trekking off just yet, pal. Huh? What is it, detective? There's still just a little matter to be resolved about the chief prosecutor. You see, she isn't supposed to be out of jail like this. But I thought you said it was okay. Yeah, well, it may be okay with me, but the folks at the prison are a different story. Huh? Basically, I had to bribe the guard in order to sneak her out for 30 minutes. Believe me, it wasn't cheap either. Huh? Way to go, detective. I didn't know you had a wild side. Yeah, well, you see, Mr. Wright here's the one who'll be footing that bill. What? You think I can afford that with my salary? You gotta be kidding me, pal. Thank you, Mr. Wright. You're the best. Why is it I suddenly feel like I want to scream? Since we're all here, why don't we go together? Yeah, that's a great idea. Come on, guys. Let's go! Yo, credit sequence number 2. I arranged for a friend of mine in Europe to take care of Emma. She's a coroner. I think Emma will be pleased. As for me, this affair has pretty much ended my days at the prosecutor's office. I still managed to find my way back to the field somehow. Then I'll be able to investigate crimes together with Emma. Thanks for coming to see me off. I can't believe I'm going to Europe. Yeah, me either. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you so much for everything. I'm a little sad, but I'll be all right. Whenever I want to see Lana, I'll just read my little book. I'll read my little book. Read my little book. Oh, wait, I get to investigate it? Hold on. What's in this one? An envelope, eh? Is it a picture of their mother and father? Aw, that's so cute! Look at them! Aw, that's adorable. I love that. Capcom. Way to go, Capcom. Solid game. Real fun. Good stuff. An amazing ending to an amazing game. If you actually watched, like, the majority of these videos, if you're listening to this part, I just want to say thank you for supporting the channel, guys. And I hope you've been enjoying the content. Expect more awesome stuff soon.